Good afternoon and welcome to Sports Talk in the Burgh. I'm your host, Colby Sherwin, and joining me today are three of the most interesting panelists we could come up with. First up is the president of the Casey Irvine fan club, Josh Woodman. Next up is a man who loves the state of Minnesota more than most people love their families, Zach Jones. And finally, a guy who would defend Mike Tomlin to the ends of the earth, Jordan Warak. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me.
Of course.
Awesome.
All right, so we're going to kick the show off with the Steelers. They were ranked 29th in passing offense last year and in scoring, with Kenny Pickett only having 13 career touchdowns and missing games due to injuries, and teammates hinting at wanting a new quarterback, and the Bears quarterback, Justin Fields, being on the trade block. If the Steelers snag the 24-year-old, how far will they go? Josh, put your GM hat and give me your best shot.
Well, I'll like to take that hat off when it comes to the Steelers because, frankly, I don't want to be around it. I think that with Fields bringing him in, I don't think he gets us over that hump to compete. I think if the NFL playoffs told you anything, you need a Mahomes, you need an Allen, you need someone, that X factor at quarterback to push you. I don't think Fields is that guy. Also, the big worry with me is the OC. When you look at who Arthur Smith has had in the past, what do you see there that makes me think, oh, he could take a running guy like Justin Fields, a guy who had barely any play scheme for runs and that needs that? What does Arthur Smith bring to that? That's my big.
That was my exact worry. Justin Fields, he's a bad passer. Mm-hmm. He's just not a good passer. He's an excellent runner, and the Bears didn't scheme that enough as they should have. But I don't think that if he were to come to Pittsburgh and Arthur Smith or even Mike Tomlin, who's never had a rushing quarterback like Fields, I don't think they would be able to fully take advantage of the strengths of Justin Fields. Yes. And, there's so many weaknesses. I mean, an FCS quarterback came in and people were debating on whether or not he was better than Fields because Fields is that bad.
Well, I think that was just stupid talking points. But I think that Justin Fields, he's not, Tyson
Badgett?
Yeah. He was not even close to Fields, sorry.
Yeah, he was bad, but whenever they're both bad, they're pretty comparable.
Listen, no.
Right.
Just if Justin Fields came to the Steelers, he could take the Steelers to the AFC Championship game with the defense that the Steelers have and the weapons that they have.
He's not gonna
what weapons? He was relying on DJ Moore. There's no one half as good as DJ Moore.
Pickens, Freiermuth, Deontay,
All right, before
Najee.
we get into a Bears-Steelers conversation, just final word, Jordan, how far will the Steelers go?
AFC Championship game with Justin Fields.
AFC Championship game is the determination by Jordan. The NBA playoffs are just 2 months away, and as teams get ready to tip off for the Larry O'Brien Trophy, let's take a look back to the summer. When Jordan Poole was dealt to Washington, many teams were calling it the deal the worst contract in the league. Zach, as the resident NBA expert, do you agree? And if not, what is the worst contract?
Look, I can see it in my mind's eye. These guys already picked contracts. Bad contracts, yes, but on bad teams. I think that the Bulls could be a good team, but Zach LaVine's contract is really holding them back, and he has not been nearly as good as the contract needs him to be. He's 5 years, $215 million. He's tied for the 8th highest in the league, total contract. This year, he's getting paid the same amount as Luka and Trey. He is not Luka or Trey.
Yeah.
He is not nearly Luka or Trey.
Listen, though, right? But at the time that he signed that contract, the Bulls were in a much better spot than they were now. They had Lonzo, who was still healthy. They ended up being the 4th seed, I believe, in the East. And even though they got swept by the Bucks that year, they were still a pretty good team. And you talked about how Zach is getting paid the same as Luka or Trey. You know who's getting paid more than those guys? Fred VanVleet.
Yeah, to fill out a veteran role presence.
But
in a team
he's not
there. Josh wants to make a point here, Josh.
No. Obviously, I'm going to say I agree with Zach there in terms of VanVleet. It's not what that contract is there for. He's there for a specific reason. That reason is not to be an excellent player on the court.
Exactly. They're not paying him to contend. They're paying him for that Jalen Green and those young guys.
Let me ask you this question, and then Josh, I want to circle back to you. What do you guys make of Jordan Poole getting benched? I think that has something to do with a guy who was on a 4-year, $128 million contract.
I mean, that's what happens whenever you don't listen on the sideline, whenever in the final timeout. I'm not surprised by that.
Real quick, though, I agree with both of those, actually. I would say that Duncan Robinson is mine. He's an older one, but it's like Zach said, it's just kind of like where the team is at now, and his level is literally worse than the 6th man of the year last year, Malcolm Brogdon. So his stats are just worse. Bad team, not competing. Just get rid of him.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. You can't pay someone like Duncan Robinson that
$90
much
million,
money.
5 year, $90 million.
5 years, $90 million to fulfill one job. Just three.
Core player. Yeah.
All right, so we are not Duncan Robinson fans here, But the UEFA Champions League kicked off last week. With Man City being the heavy betting favorites, I want to know, who is your pick to be top dog in the league? Josh, as the only person other than our assistant producer Casey who likes soccer, who do you got?
Oh, so I'm a fan club because me and Casey talk about soccer now. Okay.
Just let me know who's winning the
Anyway,
Champions League.
the answer is Arsenal here, and I'm going to tell you why. They're third in betting. I found out this morning, and also I know what you guys are going to say. Probably Man City, like you were saying, are betting favorites. They've beat them twice this season, and I know another big complaint about Arsenal is they're currently 1-0 down in their tie against Porto. That was an away game. It was a lucky shot Porto got from a long way out. It was a screamer, once-in-a-lifetime kind of goal. So I think in terms of long run, they'll get them at home. I just want to name a quick stat. Arsenal are the first team in Premier League history to score 2+ goals in 7 consecutive halves. Their last 3 games have been 6-0, 5-0, and 4-1 victories. So that's, in my opinion, what they're going to do to all these teams.
All right, we're going to go on here, Zach. Josh has blabbed enough. Zach, let us know who's winning Champions League.
I got PSG. I mean, yeah, they got. They've flown kind of under the radar this year. They've gone 2-2-2 in group play, and they just barely snuck in with a tiebreaker over AC Milan. But I mean, like one name, Kylian Mbappe. It's almost certainly going to be his last dance with PSG. I think he wants to go out on a high note. Get a real Ray Lewis year. Ray Lewis championship if he just left the team instead of retired.
All right, Jordan, let's make this quick.
I think Man City is going to end up going back to back. They have one of the best managers in the world, in Pep Guardiola. They have Erling Haaland. They've been great all year, and I just think that they are going to be able to take the Champions League back to back.
Vegas
I'm
agrees.
a little surprised none of you picked Real Madrid, but we're going to end it here as y'all made your picks. But continuing, sports fans love to complain about jerseys. With Fanatics now being in charge of MLB player jerseys and set to be the provider for NHL jerseys, we got our first taste of what the season is set to look like for our nation's pastime. And let's just say it was a little too much. Zach, I want to know, are these the worst uniforms of all time?
I think we're pretty unanimous and yeah, you shouldn't be seeing players dinglings in them. I think the only ones that really hold a candle to how bad these are the 2017 NBA jerseys. I don't know if you guys remember
The ones that ripped.
Yeah, they would rip like multiple times a week. Multiple stars would come out with them with ripped jerseys, and they'd have to get completely different ones. And while we're on the topic of NBA, I don't like the way the NBA is integrating city uniforms in the playoff series and the finals. It completely ruins some of the iconic matchups. Like last year, like the 2016 Cavs. That's the most iconic series of all time. And he's wearing sleeves.
Josh.
All I'm going to say about these is when the Dodgers come into town to play the Pirates, and I have to spend my $120. My thing is, I did not come to see Shohei Ohtani. Okay, I did not. I don't want to see that. And also, the jerseys are just plain. They're generic. There's no design or anything. They're
I feel
just
like they look the
white
same as last year's, though.
I feel like you could spice them up, and there's just nothing.
There's no major sports league that should have these trash quality of jerseys. You shouldn't be able to see the jersey through the pant. That is ridiculous. Fanatics should be ashamed of themselves. It's stupid.
We are Fanatics haters right now, but when they release their NHL jerseys, we might have to circle back here. But when we come back, we'll be talking about everyone's favorite Pittsburgh sports villain. Find out who it is right here on Sports Talk in the Burgh.
Start this foundation. It's going to take more than just us, as a foundation. It's going to take the community, the world, to help us make a change, because it just can't be us.
Feel the beat of nature at a park or forest near you. Find a forest and music inspired by nature at discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. Opening day for the Pirates is April 5th, and on Wednesday, Stephen Nebbit and Ken Rosenthal dropped a bombshell on The Athletic, detailing why the Bucks haven't been good under Bob Nutting. A quote from a former player says Nutting was kind of comfortable stepping back and being mediocre. That seemed permeate, and that's what this organization is, end quote. Jordan, can the Bucks win under Bob Nutting, and if not, what needs to change? Can you answer the call?
Oh, no, they cannot win under Bob Nutting. To win in a league, you have to be willing to spend some type of money. He is just not willing to spend anything. I don't understand how as an owner, you can willingly buy a team and just being comfortable with being mediocre the whole time. They need a severe change in ownership if the Pirates ever want to do something substantial in the league.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, they've changed pretty much everything they can change. They took an entirely different approach to the game, bringing in these analytics these last few years with the new manager.
The Red Sox, they replaced one of their draft analyst guys, the guys who's been running the draft. They replaced him in. I forget his name. It's on the top of my head, but
Ben Sherrington.
Yeah, they replaced and they brought in one of the old Red Sox analytics guys. So yeah, I agree. There's not much you can really say or do here other than sell the team. I think you're just covering up issues with the things like the Brian Hayes Golden Glove or bringing Kutch back. Like, that's nice to bring Kutch back. I'm happy he's back. Doesn't solve anything. He's not going to get us to where we want to go in the playoffs or anything.
Yeah, when the biggest name you've brought in from free agency ever from another team is Russell Martin, you got a little bit of an issue.
So before we wrap on this, I just want to know, what do you guys make of Brian Hayes kind of without the Pirates' knowledge working with a different hitting coach?
I don't see any issue with it.
Especially
if they were in the Pirates organization. Altoona. I don't understand it.
If anything, I just want to see the guys get better so we at least have a shot at playoffs. If nothing else is going to change, let the guys do whatever they want. It just doesn't really impact anything at this point.
All right, so we're going to move off the field. Last week, former NBA great J.J. Redick went on First Take and blasted old coach Doc Rivers, saying, quote, he's never held accountable. With more and more former and current athletes having podcasts, Zach, I want to know, is this new form of athlete media healthy?
I think I speak for everyone whenever I say it is incredibly fun getting this amount of insight into the league. I really don't think it's healthy for current players. I think retired players like KG, as you see on the screen right here, JJ Redick, I think those are great, letting in those past stories, giving insight on the league, giving their side of the stories. But I just think there's something sacred about a locker room, and a lot of the times it can be broken up by these podcasts. I mean, we see Pat Bev talking about Joel Embiid. He came out flat out and said that he only played bad teams in order to, win the MVP, and that was defending Embiid. He didn't mean it to tear down Embiid, but that's still just not something you say. You don't reveal something that, close to the player.
Yeah.
I just don't see it.
Yeah, it's kind of iffy for me. Like, I like seeing the players involved with it now, but at the same time, it just feels like it's just getting overrun and oversaturated with so much players that it can take away from like the quality, it feels like, of like their podcast or whatever it is.
I just personally think though, those people like Pat Bev and Draymond and them kind of paint a bad picture for the rest of them. I did a little bit of research and I listened to some of KD's podcast. He was talking about music. He was talking about movies. He was talking about a lot of stuff other than basketball. And then, like Zach said, Paul George's podcast.
The Kelsey brothers as well.
It was a good one. He was talking. His number one clip on TikTok is Jerry West talking about what Kobe was going to do during free agency a long time ago. Those are the stories we want to hear. I agree that I don't want to listen to Pat Bev crap or talk crap about other people. But like I still think though it is a lot of a bad picture painting by other people.
Yeah, and I definitely get your point. Players should definitely not be restricted to whenever it comes to talking about movies, media, whatever they like. But whenever you get guys like Justin Jackson for the Bucks, he was on the 2021 championship squad, and he said, low key, the Nets would have beat us if they were healthy. Do not say that. Unless you are Giannis Antetokounmpo, do not say that.
Did you even see the court in that series?
He played 10 minutes that entire series and had the gall to say that. He was on the. It was unbelievable.
It's very interesting with all that, and maybe not everyone deserves a microphone. If you ever listen to Mookie Betts' podcast, he tends to drag on a little bit. But when we come back, the guys are going to give their spiciest takes because today is Bring Your Take to Work Day. You won't want to miss it on Sports Talk in the Burgh.
Family with a transgender kid, here we are. Max loves to do backflips. Max loves to play his ukulele. Max loves to just be a kid and just be himself. When I found out I was pregnant, all I really wanted was a happy, healthy, whole child. And that's what I got. I think it's really important for people to know that trans kids don't have a political agenda. They are just kids. Like any parent, we love our kids unconditionally, and we will never stop fighting for them. Stand with us. Protect our families.
Wait! Not in the toilet!
No, don't do that. No.
Don't hit your brother! Oh!
Not again!
What did I tell you about playing in the mud?
Raffy, not so close to the pool. Wait!
Frankie! Happy... What are you doing? We told you never to touch the gun!
I'm sorry, I didn't think it was that big of a deal.
You could have hurt yourself!
Safely store your guns. Unload, lock, and away from ammo.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. The guys are going to bring their precious little takes here on the show for Bring Your Take to Work Day. So, Zach, let me hear first.
Well, I've got, Victor Wembanyama. I want to talk about him. I think, over the All-Star break, LeBron James has set out. He's seen the end of his career coming. Obviously, it's been pretty long. And that has drummed up a lot of discussion about who should be the face of the league after he retires. And there's been plenty of names thrown out there. I think Wembanyama is the only correct answer. I mean, this kid is unbelievable. He's only 20 years old. He's put in unfathomable numbers while he's playing under a minutes restriction. He's averaging 20 points, 10 boards, 4 stocks a game, all while playing only 28 minutes a game. And he's the perfect option to carry the torch as the face of the league. He's already a dominant player, and he's going to keep getting better and better. And using his minutes against the knock, and if you want to use his minutes as a knock against him, and saying he might not be on the court that much, Greg Popovich said that he wants to play him more. The main goal of this last stretch of the season is to get him over 30 minutes a game, so he will be ready for whenever there's an actual team to play with. Because right now it's pretty much Wembanyama versus whoever the Spurs play that night. And I don't think there's any other option really. I don't.
What do you think the Spurs need to add to help Wemby, take
Anything.
that next step?
Anyone who can throw a lob, anyone who can shoot. If you get spacing around that guy, I don't see how a team can beat them other than bats to the knees.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Zach. I think he will probably either, if not next year, in 2 years, he will be the best player in the league. And some of the players that we would think of to be the face, like Luka, I think if they were going to be, I think it would already have happened.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
That was what I would say. Is I look at people like Embiid, Jokic, Luka. I look at them and I'm thinking, should they be the face of the league by now?
No.
No, they shouldn't.
Can't.
They're being overshadowed still by the Curry, LeBron, that stuff. So
I also
LeBron is
think,
still there.
a Kawhi Leonard, maybe. I know he's towards the end of his prime, but everything he's ever done.
Kawhi
Leonard?
Luka's another
Kawhi.
one.
Kawhi, Kawhi's
you
old.
really do have to take personality into it as well.
Yeah.
And Victor Wembanyama is perfect for what the NBA wants. He goes to bed by 9:30 and he reads a book before every game. He's exactly what they want. He's the poster boy.
So
for
we
being
are
a good boy.
crowning Wemby. Josh, let us know what your take is.
Well, okay, I know during the break, I was just talking to Zach about how I want to be done with this subject, so I'm just going to lay it all here and hopefully never have to address it again. The Steelers, they don't need an old veteran QB. I just want to address some of the names. I want to go name by name here. Kirk, he's getting older. He's regressing. He ranked 15th in QBR before his injury, and then he suffered an Achilles injury. He suffered I know, Minnesota fan. I'm sorry. He suffered an Achilles injury. I don't want a guy that old coming off that. Plus, he still needs money. Russell Wilson's a similar one. He got benched because of his lucrative deal. I don't want a guy coming in and having to pay him that much. He just said he wants to win 2 more Super Bowls in 5 years. I like that motivation. I just don't think he can cut it and beat a Mahomes already. We saw that this season. Another one that's being linked because of Arthur Smith is Tannehill, old and mobile. He had a four touchdowns, 7 interceptions starting this year. That's just tragic. And then, of course, Fields. So I would rather go for, we're in the middle of the pack in a QB-heavy draft. Also, Jordan Travis is available in the late. I'd rather take a risk with some of these younger guys than go to these old vets.
Wow.
Jordan Travis that's an interesting one.
We have a motivated Kenny coming off an injury with a new coordinator. He was 7-4.
All right,
before injury.
Jordan, we were talking about the draft. I know you got an interesting draft opinion. Give us yours.
I don't feel like it's an interesting opinion. I feel like it's just the right opinion, and that is that Caleb Williams should be drafted by the Chicago Bears at number 1, and they should trade Justin Fields. Now, the term generational is thrown around so much often today, but Caleb Saquon Williams is a generational talent. This man, in his 3 years at college, has been the best quarterback in the country. He's won a Heisman. Last year, he finished the year with 3,600 yards, 30 touchdowns, 5 picks. His Heisman year, he had 4,500 yards, 42 touchdowns, 5 picks. In his true freshman year, he had 21 touchdowns and 4 picks. I feel like if Caleb had a defense, he would be able to take his team to the national championship, but USC's defense was just putrid. And I feel like if you move on from Justin Fields, you do not have to pay him, okay? And 2, you have an upgrade at the quarterback position, and you get Caleb Williams on a 5-year rookie contract so you can pay other people and bring in better talent around him to help them win the Super Bowl.
The contract is a fair point, but I do want to say a lot of the big criticism with Josh Allen when he lost this year was he was playing too much hero ball. Mm-hmm. And when people looked at Caleb Williams, I know Caleb Williams didn't have like an all-star cast in front of him, but still, it was a whole lot of scrambling and just hoofing it downfield. And occasionally, against some of those defenses he was playing, he got out a result. He got a catch there and a score. So I certainly agree from the contract standpoint. I like it because Fields is going to be out of contract at some point. You are going to have to pay him. But I don't hate it, but I feel like it's an obvious choice.
I think you're right pointing out the flaws in Caleb Williams' game because I feel like a lot of people just overlook all that and say he's the best prospect since Andrew Luck, since Trevor Lawrence, whatever. But I still have to agree with Jordan here.
Better than Lawrence?
I think. All right. I think if the Bears never traded with the Panthers and only had 1 top 10 pick this year, it would be a lot harder of a decision. But given that they have 2 top 10 picks this draft, I think without question, they should go quarterback. And then with that 9 pick, either get a weapon, get help on defense, get the O-line help. The Bears could use it. Anything. They have so many options with that 9 pick.
Yes.
Definitely interesting picks. I think Caleb Williams is safely going to go number 1. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'll give you my own take as one Pittsburgh team needs to blow it up and trade everyone. Find out who it is right here on Sports Talk in the Burgh.
If you love them enough to suck the snot out of their nose at 4 a.m., then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Today, we face an unprecedented crisis. Tens of millions of refugees have been forced from their homes. But you can make a difference. Turn disruption and despair to hope and opportunity. Even small amounts make a big difference. Provide shelter, support, or jobs in your community. The more we understand, the greater sense of belonging we create. Act now. Visit supportcrisisrelief.org.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Back to Sports Sports Talk In The Burgh. And as promised, I was going to tell you what Pittsburgh team needs to blow it up in my final take. And of course, it is the Pittsburgh Penguins. Did you know Columbus is only a few points behind them? They could actually get past by the Columbus Blue Jackets. So let me tell you why the Penguins need to blow it up. And I have a couple honorable mentions of Evgeny Malkin, Jeff Carter, and Ned. Alex and Delkovich could all be moved as well as this deadline, but these are 5 guys I think that they could get something reasonable in return. So let's start off with the prized big fish of the offseason, Erik Karlsson. You may be wondering, Colby, who the heck is going to take Erik Karlsson? The Ottawa Senators are actually interested in reacquiring Erik Karlsson. A quote from 32 Thoughts, Elliot Freeman said, "This, please recognize this is manifested purely in my head, but I watch, as Daniel Alfred said, former senator, is back on the bench in Ottawa. I can't help but wonder if the Senators consider a Karlsson reunion," end quote. He has a 4-year contract worth $11.5 million. He has 7 goals, 35 assists, and he's still at the back end of his prime. I think Erik Karlsson can quarterback a power play. Not very well here in Pittsburgh, but even yesterday, he was getting cooked by the Flyers. I just don't think he is a great defenseman. What do you guys think?
He is. Like, he's not playing like
he's not
living up to the expectations that everyone set for him with the trade. That's what is happening. He's not bad. He's just not living up to what people set the bar at.
I think it's definitely an interesting topic. Karlsson, a little hard move because the Penguins are retaining, but we'll move on to my next one. This one, I'm just praying it happens. Ryan Graves, pack your bags, learn Russian as us hockey fans say, get out of here, Ryan Graves. You are terrible. He's a 6-year deal, $27 million. He has only 10 points. He's lost on the ice most games. He's been a liability. He's 28 and he can still be moved. And you may be wondering, who's going to take that contract? The Anaheim Ducks said they want some veterans in their roster. They said they want to get some points again. Maybe that one. And also, the New Jersey Devils have brought up reuniting with Ryan Graves. I think that could be another person. But Ryan Graves has been absolutely struggling, and it's been tough to see. We'll move on to number 3, and it's a combination of Jake Gensel and Brian Rust. They will get the most value back. Jake Gensel going to the Vancouver Canucks and Brian Rust heading to the Colorado Avalanche because the Avalanche are a one-line team and the Canucks are looking for scoring. Rust is 31, Gensel is 29. What else do I need to say? These two have been phenomenal their entire career, and I think it's doing right by the players to move on from them. Move on to number 2, Chris Letang. He's 36 years old. He's never been a captain. I think he's earned it. He's too injured, and he only has 7 goals and 29 assists this year. I think his hometown team, the Montreal Canadiens, would bring him in, try and get in the playoffs. Maybe they are below, but I think with Chris Letang, who's basically a winger at this point, he would be a great addition for the Canadiens. And my number 1 Penguin to get moved at this deadline, Tristan Jarry to the Edmonton Oilers. He has 16 wins, most shutouts in the league. He can still be moved. He has 4 years left, and he doesn't have a no-movement clause. He can go anywhere. The Oilers need a championship. They're in the McDavid era now, and Draisaitl's contract ends next year. They've got to make a move. Tristan Jarry is your guy, Edmonton, to win you that cup.
Why give up the best goalie, our best goalie? Like he's better than Ned.
They're at the bottom of the standings. There's nothing left but down. They have no prospects. They have nothing.
But it's just like you don't need to do that. I feel like you could get a relatively decent value. I want to hear what Zach thinks.
Where's Sidney Crosby on that list? I don't know if you know this, but the Penguins have some dark years ahead of them.
Exactly.
And you can shave like actual years, actual seasons of like that darkness off if you just shade Sidney Crosby right now.
I just want some happiness, man.
Yeah, but I think it's time to move on from everybody if you're going to blow the team up.
I agree. But it's just really hard because Sid is the only good player right now.
You're getting too
He
emotional.
had 6 points yesterday.
He's that type of player that's going to be good until he's 44.
He's the literal owner of the Flyers.
You could get a haul for him right now.
I understand. It's going to be tough to move on. But for everybody upstairs, downstairs with our illustrious panel, I'm Colby Sherwin. Thank you so much for joining us for Sports Talk in the Burgh. We will see you next week.